The ride for Pelennor Fields? Oh yes, everybody loves that. Very well then. The ride for Pelennor Fields will always be one of the greatest action scenes of all time. How about this one? Calm down, guys, calm down. She's a strong female character. Look at her do that cool horsey flippy thing. It's not that bad, is it, guys? It's not that bad. But she's a strong female character. Isn't this a cool scene? Don't you like it? Well, alright then. Well, what should we do with it? You know something that just dawned on me while I was force-feeding myself the 6th episode of The Rings of Power? There is now more bad cinematic adaptations of Tolkien's work than there are good ones.
What? What?
The scale has finally tipped into the cesspool. Peter Jackson, first trilogy, clocked in at about 11 hours and 22 minutes. So there's just under 12 hours right there. Then the mediocre Hobbit movies came out, and they clock in at 11 hours, 26 minutes. Yes, I did look all this up before I went on this rant. I don't just have it memorized.
I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I'm better. I am better.
And with the Hobbit movies being 11 hours, 26 minutes long, probably only about a fourth of them are really good and okay. Like a fourth of the runtime is actually good. So like maybe even a third. Okay, I'll give you a third. Each one had a third of each one being any good, really giving us about 3 hours, 45 minutes. And so if you add all of the good theatrical Tolkien on screen, it adds up to about 14 and a half hours.
Oh, damn!
That's a lot of time, right? That's great, right? Now let's add up all of the bad. So bring in the rest of the awful Hobbit movies, and now that added with the 6 current hours of Rings of Piss, that gives us about 13 and a half hours. So just barely shy of the good amount of Tolkien cinema. But considering the 7th episode is about to come out shortly and the 8th episode is only a little bit away, I guarantee it is safe to say that there will be no improvement by then. That gives us about 15 and a half hours of heretical, stupid, controversial bullcrap that calls itself Tolkien. Not to mention that the show is going to hit 5 seasons worth, at least that's what they're shooting for, and factoring in the emotional scarring and torture that this show has put me through and the hours of therapy.
What about the patch for the emotional wound?
I think it all equals out to be like, I don't know, 45 billion. Is right now really a good time to do that? Right here with everybody? Like, is that really the most important thing at the moment? I guess so. My cat's cuter than yours. I'll fight you on that. Betty Rub. It has now officially happened to every successful movie franchise at this point. The sequels, prequels, reboots, and spin-offs overtake what used to be the great pillars of cinema, making them but a glimmer in the distance, a mere faraway lighthouse of true cinematic beauty, encompassed about by ghastly, hideous waves of cash-grabbing, cliché, wokeism, and talentless reimaginings, never taking thought to the pioneers before them, never realizing that the cup was empty, and that to try and refill it would only taint its predecessors. We are now but mere vagabonds, clutching at any resemblance of what we once knew, only to be awoken by the fraudulent facsimile coming to us in perceived familiarity. Treading through shadow is now our destiny. Depressed enough now?
Don't do that.
Great! Now let's get talking about episode 6, shall we? As far as the positives go, there were some really beautiful shots in this episode. Watching the volcano erupt and take over the Southlands was really cool to see, even though it made no sense how it happened, as well as some above-average action drone shots. It's nice to know that there are a few shots that were properly funded by this billion-dollar budget. In the same vein, the orcs looked amazing. There are plenty of close-ups to show off the actual prosthetics, making them feel real, unlike something that would have not had the same impact had it been CGI. There were also the usuals like the music and the visuals, especially one visual. The one strongest point of this episode was the character Arad. Even though he is a completely made-up character and his origin makes no sense, this episode actually did a good job at making him a sympathetic villain. Wow, you plebs! I didn't know you had it in ya! The reason they give for him trying to take over the Southlands is because he wants to make a home for the orcs, whom he sees as his children. He even scorns Galadriel for not seeing orcs as creatures that have lives and not just monsters. It was a different take that hasn't really been done before in this context, and I didn't absolutely hate it. Good villains are majorly missing from modern entertainment, and there's a market for them. Just look at how many people loved Thanos from Infinity War. And probably the most positive part about this episode was the complete lack of Harfoots.
Awesome. Yes!
Not having Harfoots in an episode of Rings of Prime must feel similar to the adulation one feels when they have a negative herpes test. With all that being said, we knew that the writers and directors would never have a good streak that lasted more than 30 seconds, so
Come on, don't bullshit me.
let's get into it, shall we? This episode proves that $1 billion budget cannot create talent. This episode was definitely the most action-packed of the precursors, which would have been a breath of fresh air at this point, considering how much time we have wasted in the past 6 episodes.
Stop wasting time!
But here's the thing, it sucked.
Man, that sucks!
I always use a notepad to jot down my thoughts on media as I consume it, especially for Rings of Power. And the theme that comes through the most in my observation was really clunky action, accompanied by absolute cringeworthy shots and drawn out obtuse exchanges. Seriously, did the writers get no people to properly choreograph their fight scenes? It just doesn't feel real at all. Don't believe me? Let's break it down for all it's worth, shall we? First of all, why in the hell is Bronwyn in charge? She's basically the equivalent of a holistic medicine life coach. Essentially none of her original skills would ever be useful in a combat situation. Or for any situation for that matter. Why in the heck is she the leader of the attacks? If anyone should be in charge, it should be Airsoft. He's the thousands-of-year-old elf with literal centuries of combat experience. But no, he gets relegated to giving rousing speeches because every single woman in this show is an absolute unit of badassery.
No, I don't need it. I don't need it. I'm an independent woman. I don't need you.
If you thought that the sword fight in episode 5 was the worst thing to happen to medieval conflict, well, hold on to your butts.
Hold on to your butts.
Because the next few minutes might induce brain aneurysms from downright stupidity. In the first 5 minutes, we see Airsoft bringing the orcs into a trap, but not before killing 2 of the orcs before springing the trap. He also has no idea how to hold a bow, by the way. What was the point of wasting 2 arrows again? If you were just gonna kill all of them by collapsing the tower 2 seconds later? Dumb. Anyway, later, as the villagers wait to spring the trap on the unsuspecting orcs, Bronwyn just goes ahead and lets out the wimpiest battle cry of all time. Because, I don't know, I guess calmly slitting the dude's throat under the cover of darkness so that she could spring the trap with no hindrance wouldn't be cool enough. Well, I hope it was worth it, Bouncing Bron, cause your friend is freaking dead. Also, why the heck did she go for the foot instead of the head? Wow, all of that rhymed. Didn't mean for that to happen. Does she not know how bodies work? Also, you cannot tell me that there were any times throughout all of medieval history where women had a massive, significant part to play in the battles and combat. Yeah, people are gonna think I'm sexist, but I'm not. I'm realistic. Women are definitely strong in their own way, but there is a reason that they were confined to being gatherers rather than hunters in the grand dichotomy of men and women. Men have a distinct advantage over women, and any battle that took place in Northern European history that had women playing a huge role would have been completely unheard of. There's a reason that women like Boudica and Joan of Arc and even Mulan stick out because they were against the culture of only male soldiers. It was completely unprecedented. That's why Éowyn, fighting in the battle for Pelennor Fields and later killing the Witch King with one of the most badass lines of all time, was so freaking epic.
I am no man.
It was impactful because she was a woman, and because it was unique. She even overcame the scorn of her brother Eomer when he told her that war was the province of men, and he was completely devastated when he found her supposedly dead body on the battlefield. Because not in a million years did he think she would be in combat. But because our show has to represent the modern world, women are just thrown in every scene with the men. It's unrealistic, and it's missing the point of those epic female archetypes that came before it. It's not special when women fight anymore, it's just normal now with no significance whatsoever. And call me old-fashioned, but these women just seem so out of place in these battles.
Think I can smell shite.
Next, Airsoft gets into what has to be the most hysterical fight scene in the entire show. Not only does the orc literally wait for him to get up before attacking him, the scene quickly goes from serious action to wacky comedy. Why haven't you stabbed him yet? He was literally backing up to you. Oh, you're throwing him now? Wonderful. You know, the whole problem could have been solved with a swift beheading right here, right? It's the cliche, need to kill the hero slowly enough so that someone can come and help him. No more stabbing. I'ma just throw you against the wall really hard. Did he just punch plated armor? Not the best strategy, especially if you want to use your hand afterwards, bud.
Ow, Johnny! That really hurt!
Man, that kick did nothing. Good to know all of your Bruce Lee flipping did virtually nothing to damage this guy. What the? Did you see that? Orc Squatch just jumped up and clocked him. No dodge, no block. He just led him. Did he miss his cue or something? Man, Airsoft is a way worse fighter than we thought.
So, are you gonna dodge any of these? Oh, that's what...
And then they go to the struggle to stab that seems like it took a year to get over with. In the time that grapple started and ended, I had enough time to write in my notes that Bronwyn was probably gonna come up and save him before it was even done. And I was right. Of course. Of course she saved his life. She's a goddess in human form. How could I have forgotten that? All throughout this scene, too, Airsoft is screaming more than a Baptist at a rapture, to give us more of a feeling of intensity. Screaming doesn't make it cool, buddy. It just means you weren't beat up enough as a child. Want to see how many times Aragorn screamed against Lurtz? That's it. Because the fight was so good, we didn't have to trick the audience into liking it with sound effects and flippity flip flips. And like it always does in the Rings of Prime, scenes go from stupid to literally absurd. What the actual flip was that? This has to be the stupidest thing a person could ever do on a horse. She's lucky she didn't teabag herself on the dude's crotch leaning down the horse like that. Wouldn't a simple slice on top of the horse have worked just as effectively? You know, like every cavalryman has done in the history of all time. Why the hell would you make yourself vulnerable like that? 'Cause it's cool. What if you fell off and trampled yourself to death? Oh yeah, because Galadriel is just Rey with pointy ears. I forgot. It literally made me laugh out loud because it was that stupid. In the same vein, why the heck did this guy decide to tackle a dude off of his horse? Your horse is your friend, dip-ass. Stay on it.
You stupid? What's the matter with you?
Of course, he also has to go save his white friend because heaven forbid we show a white man being competent in this show.
It's forbidden.
Also, I'm not a horse expert, but something tells me that the amount of force that not Sauron could exert on a pole extending sideways while balancing on a horse seems like it would be nowhere near enough to trip a horse at full gallop, but that's just me. The point I'm getting at is that we've been waiting for the show to articulate something resembling action and excitement, and when we finally get it, not only is it in the last few hours that the show will be airing, but it's also completely unbelievable and unrealistic. At no point in the story did I feel like there were any stakes because none of the action seemed real. In fact, I would say that I almost did the opposite of worry about the characters. I was hoping that the show would kill off Bronwyn, despite her fantastical features. I was actually pretty bummed when she survived, because her dying would have just filtered out one of the many unneeded characters that had no impact on the plot. Some things haven't changed at all from the past 5 hours. Everyone is still absolutely losing their minds whenever Karen Ladriel even breathes.
Again?
Why do the showrunners want us to root for her? I don't even think they like her. She literally threatens to murder the children of the antagonist in front of him in this episode. It's official. Not only is Karen Ladriel a hot-headed, obnoxious, manipulative, toxic masculinity exemplifying smartass, she's also a psychopath.
Wacko!
If this is the type of girl that you want your female audience to look up to, you might as well just idolize Hitler. There isn't a lot of variation between the two at this point. On top of that, they're throwing in a stupid intrigue of a love story between her and Halbrand that feels more forced than a colonoscopy. Celeborn is truly dead, my friends. And here's your another weekly montage of lines cheaply taken from the far superior Jackson series. Roll the clip.
But in the end, it's only a passing thing. The shadow.
In the end, this shadow is but a small and passing thing.
Taken by the dark powers,
Of elves taken by Morgoth.
tortured and mutilated,
Tortured, twisted,
a ruined and terrible form of life.
made into a new and ruined form of life.
Yeah, you still suck and are a cheap copy of a masterpiece. I really did not know you guys would be able to shove this many callbacks into your show. It's pretty impressive, actually. You're that horrible of writers that you basically just carbon copied the entire script over.
Mommy's mimicking me! Mommy's mimicking me! Carmen?
You should be sued for plagiarism.
I'm gonna sue you out of existence.
Along with not being able to write coherent action clips, the writers continue to tread over new ground over the amount of gigantic plot holes that they can fill into one 60-minute segment. Stuff that really takes you out of the world immediately, destroying any dynamic between fantastical and realistic. Plot holes like, why does Arad only wear one gauntlet? If he had a shield on the other side, that would make sense, but he doesn't, so his armor's deliberately leaving his right side unprotected? Why did the idiot humans think that fighting in a village was a better idea than a towered fortress on top of a hill where you could easily pick off their attackers one by one? How in the shit did this entire army fit onto these 3 dinky-ass boats? They're maybe 70 feet long, and you're telling me that they fit 500 men and 500 horses on them? Is it like a magical bullcrap tent in Harry Potter or something?
I love magic.
How the freak are these completely different ethnic dudes related? Like how the freak? Why the flabbergasting Bombadil did we have a scene where Halbrand wanted to kill Arad, but was stopped by Galadriel, to only have them literally just switch places 2 seconds later, with Karen Ladriel wanting to kill Arad and Halbrand stopping her? Seriously, why did you guys just do the exact same scene twice and you didn't think we would notice? Filler. Why the glutton-toed balderdash did the orcs wait for like 10 minutes during this cringy healing scene before actually trying to break the door down, giving the not riders of Rohan enough time to save the day? Oh, I guess I just answered that question. Future Elijah here. I totally forgot to put in one other plot hole. You know how the Numenorians got to the Southlands in like 2.5 seconds after leaving Numenor? Yeah, that makes 0 sense. First of all, how the freak do they even know what part of the Southlands the people are in? If this pyroclastic flow happens this close to the mountain, then that means they're in the heart of Mordor. The Numenorians would have had to cross over the Sundering Seas, a distance which can be from 300 miles up to 900 miles, and then once getting to Middle-earth, it would have had to cross over either 2 sets of mountains or gone south and then later north up to where Orodruin is. And you're telling me they did this in like 2 days? Even if these are the best horsemen on the world, you can't just cross over mountains like it's nothing. Either these Numenorians can grow wings and fly over 2 sets of mountains right to where they need to be at any given time, or the writers don't know anything about geography and just threw them into the action in order to continue the plot. It's stupid, and it took me right out of the world. If you know anything about Middle-earth, then you know it's way bigger than these people could have ever crossed in like a day. At best, it would have taken them a week, maybe 2 weeks to get there. Notice that they didn't show any map montages when this whole scene happened, and I think it's because they knew how ridiculously stupid it would be to show how far these people crossed. Anyway, go back to the original me. I just had to go in and clear something up before I left. Why does just having this medallion make you the king? Would they get on their knees and start worshipping anyone that had that medallion? How are we supposed to tell those that are of the bloodline from those that just want free beer? How the freak is pouring water in a volcano supposed to kickstart it into erupting? That's not how volcanoes work, dummies. Did you fail 5th grade science or what? Also, if this happened, then she is freaking dead. Pyroclastic flows can get up to 1300 degrees Fahrenheit, honey. No amount of girl power would stop that thing from melting your face off. The point I'm getting at here is, guess what? Even when the Rings of Power does fulfill a few things that we wanted, like impactful action scenes, the writers continue to prove that they are completely ill-suited for the task in every way. Their action is barely average, the stakes are lower than the dirt.
It goes you, the dirt.
And it's all topped off with enough plot holes to make for a half-decent road in California. Even when y'all are good, y'all are really bad.
That is not great.
It sucks.
Did this episode entertain me? Yes, but watching 2 drunk people fight while they throw up over each other is also quite entertaining. The amount of dissension in the overall narrative negated any joy or glee I felt on the surface of what looks like good cinema. Lord of the Rings was always meant to be more than just entertaining. It was meant to be inspiring and meaningful. Both of you really took a page out of J.J. Abrams and Michael Bay's school of writing. Rapid-fire stupidity at its finest, that's for sure. If you want to watch a real movie that will keep your ass cheeks clenched with actual stakes, powerful emotional payoffs, and absolutely top-tier choreography fighting, go watch First Blood, the first installment of the Rambo franchise. The best one, of course. It'll leave you satisfied and wanting more.
That's what she said!
And makes the Rings of Prime look like Teletubbies in comparison. Anyway, thanks for watching this psychotic pontification of mine. These are quite therapeutic for me, if you can believe that.
Goodbye, everyone. I'll remember you all in therapy.
Also, it's kinda late to drop this joke, but I think I have the perfect amount of subscribers at this point. Don't need any more beyond that perfect number, am I right? I need friends. I have a friend. He's my friend. He's a good boy. He's the cutest little guy. He's just so cute. You want to smell the bike? No, probably not. Bye!